So I'm glad that we have a chance to talk about different strategies of how to talk at the examination, and not necessarily at the examination. Probably we will explore some areas of how to be a good public speaker. So let me tell you a couple of words about myself. So for about 11 years I used to work at the Academy of Postgraduate Pedagogical Education. I was a teacher trainer. For 12 years I've been working as an examiner for Cambridge Assessment English Group, and I examine all the levels beginning with young learners and finishing up with proficiency and IELTS, so you can ask me any questions about examinations if you like. And now for 3 years I've been working as a presenter for Cambridge Assessment English Group. So today we're going to talk about how to speak and how to organize your speaking. So actually, not a single singer would start singing unless her or his voice is prepared. And not a single athlete will run a marathon unless just there is some kind of warm-up. But some speakers, they believe that they can just start talking without any preparation. So we are going to talk about this in a moment. So we know that our voice is a very powerful instrument, and we can really persuade people to do different things. We can really inspire people. We can make people happy. We can cause positive emotions just using our voice. And they say that there are some hallmarks of healthy voice. So these hallmarks, they appear to be vitality, versatility, sensitivity, warmth, and purity of tone. And many diagnosticians say that you can say how healthy a person is just by hearing a person. So we have probably to just work at making our voice more powerful and more just efficient instrument in communication. So just, I've told you that we have to be prepared for talking, and if you don't mind, we are going to say some tongue twisters, so that will probably be invigorating, and parallelly we will be tuning our voice to further communication. So the first tongue twister, please, for lips. Pass the pens and pencils, please. Leave the lazy lad alone. The longer you linger here, the stronger the things will get. In our solo performance, could I ask you to read just the next one? So number 1. Could you do that? Okay, yeah, and the second one, please. Okay, yeah, go ahead. All right, and let's do number 4 together. 3 thrifty thieves thought thankfully of 33,000. Now, I believe we've activated our voice, and generally I use short poems which are aimed at preparing your speech organs, and they are both for lips, for palate, and the tongue. So there is a nice poem, right, which we are going to say together. All together, please. My organs of articulation were a definite vexation until I said the silly rhyme 3 times through. Articulatory agility is the desirable ability to manipulate with dexterity the tongue, the palate, and the lips. All right, so very often we use tongue twisters as a warm-up. Today, Lydia has been talking about just using different lead-ins. Could you explain the difference between a lead-in and a warm-up? Can anyone tell me the difference? Yeah, because a lead-in just introduces the topic of the lesson, and a warm-up just is used for preparing your speech organs, probably for creating the right kind of atmosphere. So actually tongue twisters, they're a very good warm-up activity. And now just when we assess candidates at examinations, we pay attention to how they use word stress and sentence stress. Unfortunately, not many candidates know how to do that properly. Now we are going to practice it. So we started with that group and we're going to switch over to this one. So the lady here, will you kindly read the first sentence focusing on I, all right? Excellent. Will you continue, please? All right, the lady here. Thank you. Will you continue, please? Right, yeah. So actually, just this doesn't contain any logical stress, very impassive, very distant. All right, so actually you can use these funny sentences because having fun and learning the language, they go hand in hand. Because when you're having fun, we learn just more effectively. All right, so that was the activity aimed at just drilling sentence stress. You know, you know, when we number, when we enumerate several things, we have to use rising tone and falling tone at the end. So to make this activity more satisfactory and more rewarding, we could organize it in the following way. So, for example, we start with fruit, right? And we say there were grapes and oranges and pomegranates and tangerines and pears. You know, we are going to use the next group, nationalities, right? So they were Russians, and you continue taking turns adding new nationality to this list. So they were Russians, go on. Okay. All right, Japanese, rising tone, Chinese, Portuguese, go on. Yeah, that's it. And the falling tone. No, and now the lady falling tone. So you use the rising tone and the lady is going to use the falling tone. Okay, and the British, excellent, right. Now let's do vehicles, all right? So there were some submersibles, go on. Trains, continue. Yeah, go on. Yeah, lorries, planes, go on please. Any other? Yeah, very good, thank you very much. Helicopters, that's it. And the falling tone, и падение тона. So, and a yacht, right, because yacht is important, right? Luxury symbol, good, very good. Now we're going to do some clothes, if you don't mind, and we're going to switch over to this group. Well, have a look at the people sitting next to you, just the clothes they're wearing. So there were some blouses, go on please. Yeah, just one word per person. And shirts, all right. Okay. Okay, well, this is kind of, well, probably just are shoes clothes or what, right? That's a philosophical question. Good. And finally, the falling tone. И падение тона еще один предмет одежды, пожалуйста. Lady in green. Okay, and socks, right? Okay, that's it. And probably some food on the menu, right? Are we going to talk about a posh restaurant or a fast food restaurant? Any kind of restaurant. Okay, let it be a fast food restaurant. So there were some, yeah, there were some sandwiches, good. Okay. All right, yeah, probably milkshakes and the falling tone. All right, so here you actually have two goals. You practice intonation and parallelly you recycle vocabulary. So that's why just these activities could be quite helpful. Now, voice and movement. So probably you have noticed that when we talk, we accentuate what we say using our body language, using just gestures, using hand gestures, nodding our head, etc., etc. So I would like a volunteer to come up here, because I am a bit just tied up right now. I don't use my body language freely, but one of you is going to do that. Please come up here and please just be ready to use any gestures that are typical of you. Is the lady going to be a volunteer? Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. So I would like you to read these 4 sentences. And please yeah, I can hold a microphone for you. Yeah, but you're going to use your gestures, that's why. I just can't believe that.
I just can't believe that.
Mm-hmm. Go on, please.
But what made you do it?
Right. All right. Gestures.
Okay.
Good.
This is just too much.
Uh-huh.
I will never forgive you.
All right. Thank you very much. And your name is?
Mary.
Mary, thank you. Thank you. So actually, just what body language did Mary use? She was nodding her head, yeah, definitely, just accentuating the words, and also she used hand gestures. All right? So they say that orators and eloquent speakers always punctuate their speech with a body language. We know that so reporters and anchormen, they are trained not to use body language and to be a bit static. But in real life communication, we do use body language extensively to focus on some elements of content areas. Please raise your hands, those of you who are never afraid of talking in front of the audience, who don't have anxiety. You don't have. Excellent, right. But most of us do. So, just experience. It comes with time, with experience. Very good. And now I would like you to share your ideas. How do you prevent yourself from being anxious? How do you avoid anxiety? Okay? You could pass my...
I think that's the only reason for that is the age and the experience. That is the idea. But, of course, you should rather calm down. You should know the material which you are going to present, and only then you'll be able to do it. And, of course, emotions. You should look at the audience and decide what kind of people they are. And so you have face-to-face contact. That is the main idea. And as if you are, or maybe you can find a person in the audience to whom you are planning to speak. For example, we are talking with each other. That's the idea.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, your recipe was to acquire this tranquil state from knowing what you are going to talk about, from finding a particular person, just who you are going to address at the moment, and certainly experience matters a lot, right? So what do specialists say? I'm really very glad that I borrowed some of my ideas from TED Talks. And actually, all the ideas are floating in the air. And there is this ripe season when we have to admit that TED Talks ideas, they are really just indispensable. So, Julian Treasure, one of the specialists, says that just the way to avoid anxiety is to recognize your anxiety, but not to let it spiral out of control. So you say, okay, yes, certainly, I'm a bit anxious, I'm really emotional, but that will make my speech probably more vivid, and probably it will make my speech just more emphatic. So we have to recognize our anxiety. And so actually Julian Treasure gives an example of one of the best public speakers doing 100 push-ups before he starts talking. Some people run or jog around the building. Some people do breathing exercises. But so actually there are some recipes, and we have to tailor, right, these recipes to suit our personality. Actually, yeah, I do believe that probably getting feedback and response from the audience really helps. Because when you see that people really care, that people really appreciate what you are talking about, that will inevitably lead to your successful talking. Another recipe which is offered by psychologists is to be in the moment. And again, I don't know why, so we once met with Lydia at the training session, but we just didn't communicate before this particular session. But actually, I am going probably to mirror, to reflect some ideas which she got across. So we have to be in the moment. We have to feel this precious moment, because very often during examinations, when candidates talk, they think about the mistake which they made. They think about what they're going to talk further, but they are not in the moment. They have to concentrate on this particular task. If you are answering a question, don't go back to the previous question, don't anticipate the next one, just be in the moment. And there are several psychological tricks which can help you just be in the moment. So let me give you an example. Again, I will need a volunteer. I'm very grateful for that group, just who nominated, or probably it was a self-nomination. I need one volunteer. Yeah, thank you. Please, I would like you to point at different things in this room, but to give false names to these things. For example, pointing at the ceiling, you can say this is a desk, right? Pointing at the chair, you might say this is a bag, right? Pointing at the floor, you might say this is George Bush, whatever, right? Okay, yeah, you've got it. So give us 5 sentences, if you don't mind, right?
Yeah, just these are flowers. This is a microphone. This is a train. This is a TV. And this is a bathroom.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, actually, lady did a great job. Why? Because usually when people start giving false names, they choose words from the same semantic group. They say probably a flower, a tree, etc., etc. They use the same lexical set. But the main idea is to use words from different semantic groups, which the lady did, and thank you very much for that. Now, I would like you to work with a person sitting next to you. And I'm going to demonstrate an activity which we are going to do in a moment. Can I ask just for your assistance? Can I ask you? Yeah, okay, you. Right. Just imagine what is going to happen. Imagine you are giving a gift to a person. You just say, here is a gift for you. You don't know what the other person is going to say, and this person unwraps the gift and shows her admiration about the gift, naming the object being presented. And you reply spontaneously. So we drill spontaneity here. I knew you would like it, all right? Yeah. So actually, I give you a present, and you unwrap it, and I don't know what you're going to say, so unwrap it carefully, and say, oh, lovely, this is... Lovely, and name the object. Mm-hmm. Anything, absolutely anything. Yeah, well, just I would rather you gave some just funny word, like in the presentation, which I borrowed it from, it was, oh, it's frog's leg, right? I knew that you would like the frog's leg, because if you cook it properly, it is absolutely delicious, all right? So actually, you're going to work in pairs, right? thank you so much. You give the gift to a person, and then you just you imitate like this unwrapping, right, action, and you say, oh, this is a box of matches. So this is a stone, whatever. I knew that you would like a stone because you're just a garden. It would be perfect in your garden. All right, go ahead. I would like you to work for about 2 minutes. Have you got a partner? Yeah, you have got a partner. Well, one of you hasn't got a partner. We could work together, right? So the ladies work together and we... All right, have you swapped roles? Have you both done it? Yeah, okay. I will wait for about 30 seconds. Good. Let me get some feedback from you. So what object did you have? And just what explanation did you give? So it was? A butterfly, right. So why would a person want a butterfly? Just give you reasons. Okay, it was your choice. All right, and ephemeral, right, and life, yeah, just being wonderful. Right, thank you. So what just exotic object did you have, any of you? Oh, right, and I knew that you would like a Chinese book, not knowing the Chinese, right? So, all right, thank you. Talking about China, right? So actually, there's many students, many teachers just keep discussing the topic. What's the best way to learn a foreign language? And not very long ago, I listened to a TED talk, right? And there was a person who shared his experience of learning Chinese. He said that the best way to learn Chinese is to choose a language parent. A person who is ready to stay with you several days, several weeks, several months, and actually the person managed to learn Chinese in half a year. Right? So TED Talks are wonderful. You can get any kind of information about how to cook, how to learn languages, anything. So could you give me some exotic object you had? A piece of chalk. Excellent. Right. Just why would a person want to have a piece of chalk? So the reason why. Right, yeah, and if all the technology breaks down, right, so that would be a useful thing to have, thank you. So, just any exotic object from your group? Yeah, just, a good choice. A plastic bag, good. Mm-hmm. Why would a person admire a plastic bag?
Because people do shopping.
Uh-huh. Right, so it has to be probably a jute bag, right? Some biodegradable material, all right? Good, thank you. So, okay, so we have decided that we could organize, well, dear audience, can I have your attention, please? Thank you. All right, yeah, okay, thank you. So we're going to move forward. So we know that a very good activity to make students more verbose and extend their answers is to do sentence lengthening activities. All of us do this. Probably we won't practice it because that's easy. So one person says they lived together for a long time. They lived together for a long time before she found out she had deceived him, etc., etc. So just sentence lengthening exercises, a very good extension technique. Now the next one. Certainly we know that we can work wonders with our voice. We can create different kinds of atmosphere. It could be warm, it could be hostile, it could be neutral. So I would like 2 volunteers. Who is are there any people here who are just true optimists, who were born to be optimists? Okay, thank you. So I would like you to read this extract. And please, let's have a look at the task. Cause the feeling of peace and warmth saying this chant. You really do believe in friendship and you are optimistic about friendship. Please do that. Sorry.
Warm and understanding, a shoulder to cry, sharing good times and bad, always there, ready to help. Laughter together, no need for words.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You know, I want a cynic, right? I want a person who questions friendship and probably doesn't believe in friendship. There are no such people. We have to nominate a person to be cynical, okay? So probably I will do that, right? So, warmth and understanding, a shoulder to cry on, sharing good times and bad, always there, ready to help, laughter together, no need for words, absurd. All right, so actually you can give different tasks just to create different kinds of atmosphere and make your students use their voice in such a way that this atmosphere becomes real. Now, when we work on intonation, we mostly use some content material. We use phrases, we use sentences, utterances. But specialists in phonology say that a very good technique to work on intonation is to use numbers. Because you convey shades of meanings just using numbers without using any particular words. Just have a look at this dialogue. 13592 9292 648 48 4810. So we can express different kinds of meaning. And I need 2 volunteers. So there is a situation which is given for you. One person is angry about, well, probably actually just I use the first model. Let's do this one, A and B. People on a road arguing which road to take. A driver and a person who navigates. That's a real life situation we just very often come across. I know you're a driver, so that's why you will be probably A, right? Any navigators available? Okay, can I ask somebody? Okay, can I ask you? Oh, all right, thank you. Thanks. So you can either share a microphone or just please read these remarks in such a way that there is real arguing, taking place. Okay?
You're the driver. Okay. 13592 9292 648
48?
4810.
No, 10, just 48.
Excellent, excellent. So that was a fantastic performance. So just using numbers. The next thing. I would like you to think just of your favorite word. Any favorite word, the sound of which you like, and you like using this word, and you really derive pleasure from the mere sound of this word. Okay. Smetana, good, right. Could it be an English word just because we're having this seminar, or it could be smetana, all right. Whose idea was that? Again, you, probably somebody else. I would like several, yeah, all right, thank you. Mm-hmm. Torture, this is your favorite word. Oh, yeah, I like that, really. So please, just, what is your name, sorry? Galina. Galina, please, first pronounce it with a rising intonation and then with a falling intonation. All right, yeah, that's it. So now probably let's do the mood. Just pretend that you're angry. Yeah, so that really just makes us scared. That's it. So the next one, disappointed. Right, good, didn't work, torturing that. And jubilant. Jubilant, there is this feeling of triumph, right? And exaltation, right? Torture, right. Yeah, a scene from a horror film, thank you. Good. So then, well, actually, that's a very good way to say, just to practice intonation. So actually, it was a bit unusual for a person to choose the word torture, right? So generally it is a bit unpleasant, and not necessarily because of its meaning, because it contains sounds like t and ch, which are not very pleasant ones, but so tastes differ, just everybody has her or his own choice. Good. And now please, just Galina, I would like you to remove all the vowels from your word and say it. Let me give you an example. For example, I have chosen the word craving, right? And I say a, right? And you've chosen the word torture, so you say, just remove all consonants, I'm sorry. Все убираем, я сказала vowels, согласные убираем, consonants. Oh, right. Oh, good. Can you recognize the word? No. Yeah, can we recognize the word? No. When we remove vowels, in most cases we can't recognize the word. You know, please remove all the vowels. All right. So probably some people will be able to decode the word. Why? Can you give the reason why? It is about phonological core. Because in the English language, consonant clusters matter more in conveying the meaning, right? And students have to realize that. Because there are some neutral vowels, but we have to pronounce consonants distinctly, precisely, and carefully. Because otherwise, the word might not be recognized. Okay, so there is my question to you. Well, the way you teach your students, do you always ask them to talk in complete sentences? No, right, and why? Can you give the reason why? All right, because in real life, we really use ellipses, right? We do not talk in complete sentences. Well, it's not because we are lazy, because if we give just a shortened pattern, it is easily restored. We can really easily restore, and we can get the meaning of what is being said. Again, I've chosen some words, some single words, and they can convey tons of meaning. So have a look at this list, right? Real, extraordinary, goodness, and fortunate. So, and let me just read out this dialogue for you. Really, definitely, extraordinary, quite, pity, agreed. So actually the situation which was discussed is one of the colleagues getting married, right? And two people were discussing that person, and definitely they had some hopes related to that person. So actually you can ask your students to make up their own dialogues consisting of just one word, and then they will just develop these shortened patterns into longer sentences. So the next example, I borrowed it from one of the Cambridge textbooks, and it is a fantastic one. It is about people partying, and so there is this just a situation full of tragic, full of just emotions, they are overwhelmed with emotions, and I need people just to read out this dialogue. Okay? Two people. Can I ask you? No, I can't ask you. Good. What about you? I can. Good. Thank you. Any more volunteers? Can I ask the lady sitting here? Yeah, sure. Right. Please. We should have just a boy and a girl talking, but actually two ladies are going to talk. Right. Just perform this dialogue in such a way that you really convey all the drama behind the situation.
And who am I? I'm off.
Don't go.
I must.
Where to?
Not far.
Let's talk.
No time.
Someone else?
Afraid so.
Thought so.
Guess who?
Don't say.
I must.
Okay.
Your friend.
My friend?
You knew? You knew?
Of course.
Goodbye.
But why?
We are out of love.
Thank you so much. And the next task could be just developing these short patterns into complete sentences. But our students have to realize that it's not a mistake to talk in incomplete sentences. For example, even when we examine advanced candidates and proficiency candidates, so sometimes it is quite natural to talk in incomplete sentences. So do you really think so? Definitely. So that would be a very good reaction, a very natural one. So we don't always talk in complete sentences. Now, to be a good speaker, you have to be a good listener. There are several ways how you can develop your listening capacity, your listening skills. For example, in one of the tasks in proficiency examination is to describe different sounds. So it goes under this just bullet point, savoring, all right? You have to appreciate sounds. I would like one person to describe the sounds you might hear on a beach, all right? So we are on a beach. The weather is fine, the sun is shining, and you have to describe all those sounds you might hear on a beach. Well, the lady... Could you do that? Yeah. The sounds, yeah. Just, for example, you can say, birds are twittering, right? Waves are splashing. Yeah, just.
The waves of the sea are wonderful. They are splashing over the beach. Sounds.
No, just okay. Can I have the microphone? The lady has got some ideas. No. Right. Actually, you might say. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Pebbles or stones rolling, right? Water splashing, right? Yeah. Well, actually, I went to Turkey a couple of weeks ago, and there was a snake there on the beach, and it was hissing maybe, right? It depends. Good. Well, just you are to describe different, you are to be able to describe different sounds. Who has got a coffee machine? Everybody? Almost everybody. No, you haven't got one. Have you got a coffee machine? No, you haven't. Good. You might ask people to describe the sound of your coffee machine. Yeah, or probably we're in a forest, we're in a wood. Yeah, so actually, again, it could be leaves rustling. So we have to be able to use appropriate vocabulary to describe sounds, which is required for higher level just exams. Good. Now silence. And psychologists say that in order to appreciate sound, we have to expose ourselves to moments of silence. That's why we need our privacy, we need to keep silent, we need to reflect, we need to digest all the information which we just have already absorbed. Now, just a mixer, that's a good one. Actually, there is one activity which I really like. So, for example, you go to a crowded place. You go to a party and you walk around the room and you try to single out different channels of communication. You try to understand what people are talking about. I know this is bad manners, right? But for example, if you're in a bus, you're exposed to different channels of communication. And actually, when I prepared myself for IELTS, I used that technique, and actually, when I called my son and some of his friends were talking there, sitting next to the phone, I tried to understand what they were talking about. So that's a very good way to tune your ear. Being a mixer. And listening positions. We have to make sure that our students take different listening positions. They can be active listeners when they communicate, when they negotiate towards the outcome. They can be passive listeners, just there is probably some background, I don't know, TV program, right? They don't listen attentively, they're passive listeners. They have to be critical listeners. They might listen to some speech and come up with their attitude to the speech. So please make your students take different listening positions. In tasks beginning with a key level and finishing up with proficiency, we have interactive tasks. Students discuss several options and they have to negotiate towards the outcome. They have to reach some conclusion. They have to work out a decision. And there is a very good formula which makes your communication meaningful. You do not just take turns communicating, but you use different strategies. Let's see what strategies exactly. For example, first you receive information. Well, somebody shares some fact with you. Well, I liked that film. I get your point, you say. Then you appreciate. I'm really glad that you've spoken about this film. Then you summarize information. Actually, what you meant is that you really enjoyed the film, and then you ask your own question. So there is this RASA formula, or RASA formula. Receive information, appreciate it, summarize, and ask your question. So that would make your communication meaningful. Another criterion on which candidates are assessed in Cambridge exams is the ability of building up on what others say, right? Because very often they exist in parallel planes. They develop their own ideas. They actually are egocentric, right? But they have to pay attention to what other people are talking about. So, and the ways to build up on what your communicative partner is talking about is to expand or extend, summarize what the other person has been talking about, paraphrase, because paraphrasing techniques are essential for communication, and and then expressing your opinion. So these are really just good strategies for building up on what others say. So they say that communication is like a game of catch. You throw a ball, someone catches a ball, and just it goes forward. The ball starts rolling. But again, communication has to be meaningful. We have explored some ideas about making communication meaningful, and there are some extra ones. Please, find the balance between talking about what you think and what your partner thinks. So again, it's being attentive to what your partner is talking about. Now, meaningful communication implies that we could use some phrases in order to inquire for more information about clarifying some ideas. So such phrases could be the following ones. Wait, what did you just say? Why is it that way? Asking why questions is always helpful. What makes you think so? You ask for justification. And I think it would be a good idea to pre-teach students similar phrases to make their communications more meaningful. When communication breaks down and awkward silence occurs, so there could be different strategies to repair communication. We use different repair strategies. We use time fillers, we use paraphrasing. For example, if one topic has been talked about, we might switch over to a new topic. Because when students get stuck with a topic, it would be a good idea to choose a subtopic or an adjacent topic, if that is within the question, within the task which is given. Now, definitely, those of you who specialized in linguistics, you know Grice's theory. But I think it is the kind of theory which makes us understand communication better. We know that Grice came up with a cooperative principle, and he formulated just the idea that effective communication is impossible without cooperation, without interaction. We know that he actually added several, not added, but he gave several maxims which were related to that cooperative principle. And I would say these maxims really work in exam situations. Let me give you some examples. So there is a maxim of quality, and there is a super maxim, try to make your contribution one that is true. It is very good for real life, but in an exam situation you might break this rule, because sometimes you are not supposed to tell the truth. Right? If you are asked a question and you don't know the answer, you just can invent things. But in real life, yeah, this principle works. Sorry. And please, so this one is important. Do not say that for which you lack adequate evidence. Well, just for example, a person might say, I don't believe in global warming, or there is no global warming. All those things are invented. And you say why, you ask why, and the person can't justify his or her opinion. If you don't have evidence, don't come up with any statements, especially at examinations for higher levels. And certainly being relevant, so it goes without saying, so we have to be relevant, we have to give the answer which is expected, we have to react appropriately. So we know that in many exam tasks, students have to agree and disagree. Right, certainly we pre-teach them different kinds of phrases for agreement and disagreement. And when we examine different groups, we mostly hear to those long sentences. You have just taken the word out of my mouth. I totally agree with you. Do native speakers talk like that? Never. So probably we have to pre-teach them some nice phrases like absolutely, definitely, right, because that will make their communication more natural. Now interrupting. At examinations, candidates have equal rights. So if one candidate dominates or is domineering, the second candidate is just expected to interrupt him. And certainly we pre-teach some phrases for interrupting, like sorry to butt in, could I just say that, sorry to interrupt, but excuse me for interrupting. So we've talked about repair strategies. When you don't understand something, when a candidate doesn't understand something, a candidate has to ask for clarification. And again, there should be a set of phrases which are appropriate in this situation. Now, just I've stressed the importance of communication being meaningful. And in order to meet this demand, we can use such kind of questions in interactive tasks. What do you think about? What are your views on? What are your feelings about? We're not just talking about facts and ideas, we're talking about emotions as well. What is your opinion? What would you say to this? So just some strategies to make communication meaningful. For example, in IELTS examination, beginning with candidates who are likely to get 7, they are to be able to paraphrase freely. For example, if an examiner asks a question, and if the wording of the question is borrowed from the examiner, then it is not quite good, right? You have to paraphrase it. So, for example, an examiner might ask the following question, what do you think about the environmental issues? Right, instead of using the word issues, you could use the word problems, right? So you have to paraphrase the wording, like we do in языка, we paraphrase the input material. So, and the same is true for speaking exams. Well, very often candidates need some time to think about what they're talking about, and there could be some short phrases to get this time. So may think about that for a moment. How can I put this? Let me get it right. Let me think. We know that negotiating towards the outcome is just a must in interactive tasks, beginning with a preliminary level, with B2 level. So, and in order to sum up their ideas, again, they can use such phrases. We know that spoken grammar is different from written grammar. We have to make our students aware of this. Let me just give you some ideas. So we know that speech is built clause by clause, right? We do not, these days, we do not teach students single words. We teach chunks and collocations. Why? Because collocations are retrieved as blocks when a person communicates, and that makes a person more fluent. And the next point, coordination is preferred to subordination. So that's an important issue. When I just started being an examiner, I always underrated advanced candidates and proficiency candidates. Why? Because I was looking for subordination, subordinate clauses. But then my exam trainer told me, Lena, go and listen to some just best speakers, well, for example, on for radio, and count the number of subordinate clauses they're going to use. There won't be that many. If there is internal logic, and if a person uses coordination effectively, that could be a very good answer, and a person is, might get really top grade. We know that utterance boundaries are less clearly defined. That's why we have to use them connected speech. So we have to teach them liaison and deletion and assimilation, so just for their speech to be natural. Well, we've talked about ellipses, using incomplete sentences, but we know that the meaning can be easily restored, and we can easily paraphrase this short sentence and making it a complete sentence. Certainly, for example, when we try to render or to convey the meaning of some conversation, we don't have to convert direct speech into indirect speech. Just imagine you were sharing some information with your friend about how you talked to your neighbor, to your son, to your colleague. Do you use indirect speech? No. So my mother told me to pay more attention to. My mother told me just be careful, right? We use direct speech for just conveying, for rendering conversations. Well, vague language is not a very good thing, but fortunately or unfortunately, we have such words as sort of, like, and native speakers use them. That's why there isn't any reason why we shouldn't use them. We know that personal pronouns and determiners are more frequent, and in just oral communication, we do not use past perfect or present perfect continuous much, and certainly just passives are rare in spoken language. But modals are quite welcome, so they are an essential element of communication. Now we've come to the problem of discourse markers. When we assess fluency and coherence, we pay attention to how effectively candidates use discourse markers. Can you tell me what we use discourse markers for? We use just them for organizing our speech, for appealing to the speaker. So, here you have this information. So actually, they normally come at the beginning of an utterance and function to orient the listener to what will follow by indicating some kind of change or direction of talk, or sometimes of appealing to the listener. So I always give just lists of discourse markers to my students, and whenever they discuss a topic, they are to include these discourse markers into their speech. Now, some examples. Right now, anyway, just to mark the beginning or closing of a talk. Well, initiating a turn. Oh, to express a surprise. Then to signal an interference based on what somebody has said. So, you know, all these discourse markers, just make sure that you teach your students those discourse markers. I think I will have just probably to come not to a very natural end, since we started a bit just later. But I will say just a couple of words about functions, right? So everybody understands the importance of teaching and developing cognitive skills. And for higher levels, we expect candidates to differentiate, for example, between assessing and evaluating, between calculating and evaluating, between tracing and analyzing, between justifying and summarizing. So we have to do the activities to get our students, to raise our students' awareness of cognitive functions. Finally, the recommendations which I give to all of my to all of my candidates. Just a moment, please. I think I missed the slide. Oh, okay. Just I will just talk about it without any slides. Right. Just all students ask their teachers how to how to develop their communicative skills, how to how to be more proficient in language. And I say exposure is the key word. Expose yourself to reading different just genres, text genres. Expose yourself to listening different passages. Expose yourself to communication. And certainly every person has to realize which strategy works the best for him or for her. Thank you very much for your attention. And I hope that some ideas, some tasks were useful. So hope to meet you probably at the exam, right? Or at the seminar, at the conference. So thank you so much, and see you soon. Thank you.